What's up, guys? I am Matt, back with another video. This one should be interesting for you guys. I wanted to talk about batteries, why people are having e-cigs exploding, what the news isn't telling you, and even talk about things that I've just learned recently. Now, big thanks to Battery Mooch. He's one of the leading experts in the vape community when it comes to testing batteries, not just testing to see their performance, but also testing to see what it takes them to fail, etc., etc. We'll talk about him a little bit more in the end. If you're interested, go check out his Facebook page and his upcoming YouTube channel. You know, we see on YouTube a lot, or news sites, vape pen blows up in guy's face, right? But there's so much more to that. And it's not your normal average vape pen, your starter kit, that this is happening with. It's happening with more advanced devices. Now, batteries themselves, like these INR batteries that we use, it's very, very rare for one of these to ever be defective. It's about 1 in 10 million, maybe even more. So this isn't one of those like Samsung Galaxy Note situations where faulty batteries are going out and they just blow up on an innocent person, right? For no reason, just normal use, and they just blow up on that person. This is happening because of user error. And I'm not saying I don't feel bad for all these guys that have gotten hurt. It's sad. Some of the horror stories have been awful. There's been people that have burnt up their legs. There's been people that have burnt up their face. But the bottom line is that majority of this is user error. It's partially their fault, and it's also partially whoever sold them that's fault. Maybe a vape shop didn't really explain enough about it. Maybe the mechanical mod that they bought and had blew up should have a few more warnings in it. I don't know, but it's not just one of these things that just happens. And I wanted to really make that clear from the beginning, is that if you're a new vapor or you're unsure of vaping because you hear these horror stories in the news, it's not just happening on your normal starter kits for new vapors or regulated devices and little vape pens, ego pens and stuff. It's happening on mechanical mods for the most part. And it's happening because the batteries are shorting. It's not even happening because of low ohm builds. It's not happening because they maybe got too hot in a car. It's not to say that that couldn't happen, but these horror stories where they're having thermal runaway happen and it blows up in their face is because the battery is shorting out. Now, if you've been vaping for a while, you've heard the term venting. Venting is different from thermal runaway. There's basically a little disc inside these batteries, right? And when something happens, maybe there's a malfunction, you get a short or something like that, a lot of times that disc will break. You'll have a little bit of, hiss coming out of the battery, and, maybe a little ooze will come out. That's venting, okay? I've accidentally vented a battery before. I was using a box mod that was mechanical, had no built-in protections. I put my batteries in the wrong way, started hissing a little bit. I threw it outside, let it do its course, and it was over with, okay? Now, thermal runaway is what happens when it heats up so freaking fast that disc has no chance to like break or anything. Pressure builds up and it turns into a little bomb, okay? Basically, I mean, shoots, flames shoot out, it shoots out the top of these mechanical mods. Even if they do have holes cut into it for venting, flames shoot out and it blows up. I mean, that's what's happening to these guys. And it's because of a short. Now let's talk about different instances where this could happen. First off, loose batteries in a pocket, okay? Now, in order for this to short out, it's not just because a change touched, this side or that side. It's because change, or like say a coin or a key or anything, touched your positive and your negative. Now, if you look at one of your IMR or INR batteries, 18650, 26650, 18350, whatever, it's got this wrap on the outside, right? It's got a nice looking wrap on it. And if you look right where the positive is, there's a ring right on the outside of that. That's an insulator. On this one, it's white, okay? It's a white little ring right on the outside of the positive, on the positive contact there. On some batteries, it's black. Now, that ring is covering up the negative, okay? Which is very, very close to the positive. Okay, so if that ring is damaged or not covering up the negative part of the battery on the outside here, you could possibly have a coin, let's say this is a coin, that touches that positive contact right there and simultaneously touches the negative on the outside there that's very, very close, a millimeter or two away from the positive, touches them both at the exact same time, and boom. That's what's happening when these are in their pockets. It's not because the pocket's hot or anything like that. It's because you have a damaged battery, and then it's a perfect storm because some change touched that. It was able to somehow touch the positive and the negative at the same time, and boom, okay? That's why that's happened to some people. Now, damaged batteries are also very, very bad when they're in mods. When they're in a mechanical mod, if somehow a metal or your pin touches the positive and the negative at the same time, that'll do it too. A lot of times people will use hybrid top cap mech mods. That's where, you know, it doesn't have its own pin in the top cap. You screw on the atomizer here, and the atomizer's pin touches directly to your battery, right? And then the negative part touches this, you know, and when it touches it, it makes a connection and it fires the atomizer. Now, on a lot of these atomizers, especially sub-ohm tanks, the pin in the atomizer does not stick out past the threading on the outside, okay? So that positive of the battery is touching that inner pin, which is the positive pin, but at the same time, it's touching the threading, the outside part of it as well. And that will short it out, and you could have issues that way. So majority of these cases we see have been from mechanical mods. Just about all of them. It hasn't been happening on regulated mods. The last, you know, regulated mod where there was a problem with was like the iSticks from a couple years ago. It's been happening with mechanicals. The only time it could happen on a regulated mod is if possibly, say you have a mod like this. This is a rouleau. You have 3 batteries that fit into this mod. Say the wrap on multiple batteries has the metal, this outside part, which is right under the wrap here. It's called a can. It's metal. A lot of you guys have seen this before. If that's exposed on 2 batteries and those actually touch each other, I didn't know this. If those touch each other, that could short it out too. So that's one instance where it could happen with a regulated mod, where your batteries are touching and it's metal on metal. But like I said, majority of the time it's happening with a mechanical. There's not really any cases that we know of where this has happened because of the low ohm builds. It's not good for your batteries. It could stress them and it could make them more susceptible to bad things happening. But you really, in order to have this thermal runaway, you have to have a short. A short's got to happen. It doesn't mean go build whatever you want and be dangerous, but it's because there's a short that's happening in the device, and that's what's causing it to blow. Also, I thought, you know, maybe it happens a lot because these are kept in a hot car or something. It takes for venting, it takes, 130 Celsius plus for something to vent. For thermal runaway, it takes 200 to 300 Celsius, something, you know, somewhere around there. So yeah, again, it's not good to keep batteries in a hot car. It's not good for them. It could also possibly harm the electronics in a regulated mod. So it's not to say that something bad couldn't happen when it's in a car, but these horror stories that we're hearing about are not because of that either. It's only because the battery shorts out. And majority of the time, it's most likely because there's damage somewhere on the battery, or someone uses a hybrid top cap mech mod or something with a sub-ohm tank or something like that where they shouldn't because the pin doesn't stick out far enough. So if you rewrap your batteries or anything like that, you always want to make sure that you put this insulator back on, okay? And if that insulator is damaged at all, you don't want to use your battery again. Personally, if I end up having damage to batteries, I usually just get a new one. But if there's a rip anywhere in this little insulator here, or there's anything, you know, else exposed or peeled up, that's where the bad things happen. So we see here a lot of guys and they say, I'm never vaping again. It's just vaping. It's so dangerous. It's dangerous. It's because they didn't know what they were doing. It's because they used a battery like this that had a ripped up, screwed up wrap on it. There was metal exposed. Something breached and touched the positive and the negative at the same time, and it exploded. I mean, here's a mechanical mod right here that has a pin in the top cap. Right? This has a pin right here that's adjustable. It's not a hybrid top cap mech mod. But if you don't have an insulator around the outside of that positive, right there in the center, and there's the metal, the negative is exposed somehow, this is a fairly big flat pin. That pin is about as big as the whole positive. All it would take is for this battery to get kind of skewed over just a little bit, and for that insulator to not be covering the negative part of the battery, and you're donezo. Your face is exploded. It's not funny, it's sad, but I mean, that's what it takes. So I'm not saying, hey, don't use mechanical mods. Mechanical mods are the devil, but that's where it's happening. It's happening with mechanical mods. So if you are gonna use them, You absolutely need to know about how these work, about how batteries work, about Ohm's law, about building, all that good stuff. Another way it could happen is you could have a short in the atomizer itself. I mean, your coil could be somehow shorting out. There could be a short anywhere in here. And because a mechanical mod does not have protections like a regulated mod does, it doesn't know, hey, stop firing because something's shorting out, just goes for it, and it shorts out, boom. These mods, regulated mods, they have built-in protections in them, okay? And they've gotten more and more advanced over the last couple years. I have not heard of any horror stories where somebody has a regulated mod that's blown up in their face. It's not to say that it could never happen. There could be some freak crazy thing, but all the stories in the news that I've seen lately and like Mooch has seen, it's been from mechanicals. So the point really is to just keep yourself educated, know why these things happen. Not just that they do happen, but why these things happen, because you yourself can keep this from ever happening. It's all up to you. Keep yourself educated. And if you are a vape shop and somebody comes in and says, hey man, that tube looks really cool. Can I use it with my sub-ohm tank and a hybrid top cap mech mod? And they don't seem to know what they're talking about. Don't sell it to them, or make sure they're really educated beforehand, because honestly, and this may sound harsh, but if something happens, this blows up in that guy's face and he gets damaged, it's kind of on you too. It doesn't mean you could get sued or anything like that, but you got to make sure that these are advanced products, and you got to make sure that you're selling them to the right people. And even the manufacturers of products like this, manufacturers that make mech mods, throw some warnings in your packaging. Say, hey, if your battery's got rips on it, don't use it. You could have catastrophic failure. You could have thermal runaway. Bad things could happen. So really, there's very, very simple ways to not have this happen to you. If you keep your batteries in your pocket, always put them in a case. Even if they do look okay and they look nice and perfect and the wrap does, just keep these in a plastic battery case and put them in your pocket and you're fine, okay? If you use mechanical mods, if you have any kind of rips or anything on your batteries, don't use it. Do not use a sub-ohm tank or any other device that has a pin, a 510 pin, that doesn't protrude out far enough. Whether it be hybrid top cap mech mod or not, you just really probably shouldn't do that. And bottom line is if you're gonna use mechanical devices, understand how they work. Understand the positive, understand the negative, understand what happens, understand the science behind it, and that will keep you from ever having issues like this. But honestly, if you're just someone that just wants to vape to quit smoking, you don't need to get a mechanical mod. These are more for the specialty hobbyist type guys, and some of them like this, and that's great. That's their thing. But if you're just a newer vapor, go out and get yourself a regulated device, some sort of starter kit or whatever. I mean, still try to learn up on that, but there's so many good beginners devices out there, and it's not gonna happen with those. So if that's your fear, that's what's holding you back from wanting to vape, is that you hear these horror stories and like, oh my God, I'm not gonna go buy a vape pen because it might blow up in my face. That's not what's happening. First off, these aren't a vape pen. These are mechanical mods. There's a big difference between these and your starter kit vape pens you see in the gas stations. Big, big difference. So in conclusion, do what you can to be safe. You know, build correctly. It's taxing on your battery. It could make your battery more susceptible to having issues happen later on. You know, don't keep your batteries in hot cars or whatever. It's still taxing on your battery. Take care of your stuff. You know, don't leave it out in super, super cold temperatures. Don't leave it in super, super warm temperatures. But it's good for you all to at least recognize that this is happening, bottom line, because of shorts, because of a short in the battery. Doesn't mean that down the road it couldn't be something else that happens. But after, you know, Mooch's extensive testing and just what we've seen in the news, it hasn't been because of just some freak thing. It's happened because of damaged batteries, people using the wrong types of devices, using a sub-ohm tank on a mechanical mod and having it short out that way, and la-di-da-di-da. It's that simple. If it's a concern to you, don't use mechanical mods. Use something that's more simple. Use a regulated mod. Even get a mod that's got a built-in battery if you don't even want to mess with charging these batteries. Get a mod that's got a built-in battery. You charge up yourself. There has not been any reported issues on any of these new generation regulated mods that have built-in batteries. And they will tell you if you're doing something bad. If you build too low and you try to put it on this, it'll say, atomizer warning or whatever. You know, they all say different things. Atomizer short or can't read atomizer or whatever. These have built-in protections in them that will make it so you don't have those types of issues. If the battery inside gets too hot, it'll shut off. If you put an atomizer on it that's got an internal short somewhere, it won't fire it. All different types of things. So you have nothing to worry about in that instance if you just want to get a no-nonsense device and become a vapor. Go buy something that's regulated. Okay, I think that's about it. Check out Battery Mooch's Facebook page. He goes way more in depth on stuff on his page. He talks about all the testing he's done, all that good stuff. And he also is going to start making YouTube vids sometime soon. So I'll put a link to his YouTube channel down below as well. So follow his page, check out his channel if you really want to learn more about batteries and how they work and battery safety. And it's pretty freaking interesting. Even if you're not a vapor, it's interesting. If you're into flashlights or stuff like that, it's just interesting to learn how that tech works. I think that's about it, guys. Don't forget to check out our new channel, Matt and V. I'll put a link in the description for that. That about wraps it up. Until next time, thanks for watching. Suck my mod.